My job at the funeral home led me to a disturbing discovery. I went to school for the funeral business because I knew grief too well. Losing both my parents at a young age shaped me, and I wanted to help others through their losses in a way that actually mattered. When I got hired as a funeral home assistant, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. After about a month, one of the senior assistants, Tom, asked me to move a body to storage and label it for shipping. When I checked the records later, I saw that person was supposed to be cremated. It didn't make sense, but when I brought it up, Tom brushed it off like it was nothing. I figured I just didn't understand all the procedures yet and let it go. A week later, Tom handed me a cart with something heavy wrapped in cloth and told me to take it down to the cremation room. When I peeked under the cloth, I saw it was a pig. Confused, I asked why we were cremating an animal, and he barely looked up as he told me they sometimes needed extra ashes to fill urns. That wasn't standard practice, and I knew it. When I pressed him, he got irritated and sent me to clean out the embalming room instead. That was when I started paying attention. The cremation records didn't always match, as some bodies never had their tags properly processed. A few names popped up more than once, as if they were being cycled through the system. It didn't sit right with me. Then one night when I was closing up, I overheard Tom talking to our boss. Their voices were hushed, but I caught enough to understand that there was a buyer, and they needed 2 more bodies by Friday. My stomach turned. I waited until they left before searching through the files. Hidden between paperwork were documents that confirmed my worst fears. The funeral home wasn't cremating all the bodies, they were selling them. I found names, dates, and buyers, people who had no business acquiring human remains. For a moment, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were donating to science, maybe this was legal, and I just didn't understand. But the more I read, the worse it got. These weren't colleges or medical researchers. Some buyers were overseas, some had no listed credentials at all, and others I didn't even want to think about. Then the front door creaked open and my boss walked in, catching me red-handed with all the files laid out. I asked why he was doing something so disgusting as to take people's family members away from them. Instead of trying to deny it, he went over to his desk and pulled out an envelope thick with cash, then placed it in front of me. He told me the bodies went to good use, that medical students and researchers needed them, and that the families never knew the difference. They got their ashes, they mourned, and they moved on. He told me to think carefully before I did something stupid. I walked out without another word and went straight to the police. By that evening, officers raided the funeral home and caught Tom and my boss trying to burn all the evidence. They were arrested, and I was told later they were selling the bodies to anyone willing to pay. Some were shipped overseas, some ended up in underground markets, and some were never accounted for at all. My testimony helped bring them down. Other employees came forward, admitting they had been coerced into silence for years. Families who unknowingly received animal ashes instead of their loved ones sued. It became a massive case, and by the time it was over, more than a dozen people were arrested. I left the funeral industry for good after that. I still believe in helping people through grief, but not like that. I went back to school and became a grief counselor instead. Now, I help people navigate loss in a way that's real, that's honest, because everyone deserves the truth when they say goodbye.